Welcome to Stories for Wonderful Children. I'm Dan Wendelin, your host and storyteller. Before we get to tonight's episode of Myra and the School for Online Adventuring, I'd just like to say a quick thank you to Loves HP for leaving a nice review of the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Leaving reviews and telling other people about Stories for Wonderful Children are how we get all of our listeners, so thank you so much for sharing. And now, on with the story. Myra was the first one to arrive at the cafeteria that evening for dinner. She was looking forward to discussing with her friends the strange events of the last 24 hours. She looked through the food, and they were having miniature chicken sandwiches, but she just didn't find that she was in the mood. They also had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with all the crust taken off, which she normally loved. And they also had chicken with waffles. Again, something she normally adored, but not on this particular evening. Instead, she found herself drawn to just a bowl of chicken noodle soup. She wasn't usually a big soup person, but for some reason, this just seemed like the right thing for what she needed at the moment. So she got her soup and she sat down at the table. And then the rest of her friends began to arrive. First, Antoine and Chelsea, who also got some food, sat down with her. And then Tweety arrived. And then Corin, who sat down and said, "So, how did it all go?" "I will tell you in just a second," said Myra. It was a lot. Finally, Hetty arrived. "Okay," said Myra, between bites of soup. "Here's what happened," and she recounted for all of them their night of sneaking into the library and being caught by the librarian, and then after that, their strange class with Professor Tad, and how he had given them instructions on how to resist interrogation, and finally, being called to the administrator's office, and their sort of odd conversation with him. "Well, that's really bizarre," said Corin. "Now he wants you to go into the forest?" "I know," said Myra. "It's really strange." "Why would he decide to do that after we've just broken rules? He's going to let us break others?" "Well," said Tweety, "at least it'll be easier to get in touch with the deer when we need to again." "Yeah," said Myra. She looked over at Corin. He was kind of quiet. "Do you think," Corin said, "that he's trying to get rid of you?" "Oh," said Myra. I don't know. I didn't get that vibe from him. I mean, he wasn't threatening at all." "Well," said Corin with a shrug. "I mean, why would he want to keep all students out of the forest, and then suddenly you're allowed in after you do something you're not supposed to be doing, looking into something that apparently no one wants you to look into?" Chelsea said, "You're just giving me the creeps, Corin. I don't want to talk about this." Corin said, "Look, we should think about it. We should especially think about it before any of us go traipsing off into the forest." "All right," said Myra. "If any of us go, we go together, okay? Safety in numbers." "So, what next?" Hetty sort of tentatively raised her hand. "Do you want to hear about my day?" she said. "Yes," said Myra. "What happened?" "Well," said Hetty, "I went and found the book that you had left in the library." "Oh," said Myra. "And I read through it," said Hetty. "And what did you discover?" said Myra. "Nothing much," said Hetty. "I mean, it was a book all about theories of where the fates had gone. It was actually just like a bunch of individual essays of a bunch of different people who all had their own special theory. Like, one person had a theory that maybe they'd just, taken a vacation. That one didn't seem very likely. And there was one that was by someone who thought that maybe someone had killed them, or something had killed them. "I don't think you could kill them, could you?" said Myra. Hetty shrugged. "I don't know," she said. "I'm just a first-year student." That is definitely a question that I am not prepared to answer. All right, said Myra, so nothing of interest? I don't know, said Hetty. The last essay was sort of interesting. It was by someone who claimed to have seen them, who had gone to their temple in order to try to consult them, and said that he had found it empty. Uh-huh, said Myra. And, said Hetty, and he claimed that although it was empty, he had seen the Fates leaving their temple, like flying off into the sky and disappearing. Huh, said Myra. When was this? This is the part that gets weird, said Hetty. This was about 80 years ago. 83 to be exact. Yeah, said Myra. So what's strange about that? Well, said Hetty, what's been around for about 83 years? They looked at each other, kind of thought about it for a second. Myra said, look, I don't want to play guessing games, Hetty. What's been around for about 83 years? Hetty leaned forward and whispered to them, when was the online school founded? Myra did some quick arithmetic in her head. That wasn't 83. She said that it was 82 years ago. Yeah, said Hetty. Still, pretty close to the same amount of time, right? Myra shrugged. I suppose. I mean, okay, so what's weird about this, Hetty? This, said Hetty, and she pulled out the book that Myra recognized from having swiped last night, open to the essay, her finger resting next to the author's name. The author's name was James Broker, Wizard at Large. Wait a minute, said Myra. She flipped back through the essay. At the end, there was the drawing of the author. It was of an old man wearing a wizard hat, long beard. No, said Myra, not him. I mean, yes, this guy has the same name as the administrator. But look, he's old. The administrator must be like his son or something. Maybe, said Hetty. I don't know. It was the only thing in the book that I thought was interesting. So, I don't know. Maybe there's a connection. Maybe there's not. Myra said, well, why don't we go ask the deer what they think? So, said Corin, did you miss the part where I said that I think that's a trap? Myra shrugged. We've been in that forest a bunch of times, she said, and we're sort of at a dead end here. I think that we should take them what we have and see how they've been faring. When? Asked Chelsea. Myra looked around. Tonight, she said. Tonight is when we should go. If somebody's preparing a trap for us, they're not going to expect us to go immediately. You think? Said Antoine. Maybe that's exactly what they're expecting us to do. We haven't exactly established a reputation for careful planning. Myra shrugged. I'm going tonight, she said. Who's coming with me? Oh, I'm always up for a walk in the woods, said Tweety. Fine, said Antoine. Corin shrugged. All right, he said, if you all are going, I'm going. I've been dying to get into the woods, said Hetty. All right, said Myra. As soon as the sun's full set, I'll meet you all there. And with that, she got up and took her tray to be washed. And that is the end of the story for tonight. Thanks for listening to Stories for Wonderful Children. I created today's show, but questions and running commentary were supplied by my children. The theme music was created by Brandon Thompson, and our wonderful logo was designed by Silas Swindelin. If you know someone who might enjoy the show, please tell them about it. Do you want more stories? You can now subscribe to the show and help pick a new story for me to tell every month. The show's website is storiesforwonderfulchildren.com. Until next time, I'm Dan Wendelin, reminding you to tell someone you love a story.